Alright, howdy peeps, hope everybody's having a wonderful day. Sorry my video's a little bit late, it's been a wild week, it's been a wild past 2 weeks. Let me tell you, first we had a Resol motor go out, which we've been having, I don't know what the deal is with motors lately, but holy cow. We've had a head saw motor go out and then a Resol motor go out. Now we checked the records and they're both old, so maybe just a quinky dink, but I don't know. But our main problem is it happened 2 weeks ago. Like a week ago. It's 2 weeks ago. Our CNC grinder messed up. Our saw grinder, we grind our band saws for the Resol at our sawmill. The grinder messes up, alright? It's getting older. I don't call it old because to me it's still new, but somebody says it's old and it's discontinued, there's parts discontinued and stuff, whatever. I thought that wasn't my concern, but I guess it is because the parts ain't readily available. So anyways, I had to send a motor control unit out to Oregon or Washington. I can't remember if it's Washington or I think it's Washington. It's way out west. I'm in the east. I had to send it way out west. And then they had to reprogram it and stuff, send it back, and didn't work. But this whole time, sawmill's running, and we are out of, we don't know what to do. We have no grinder. We have no grinder. We're down. And I'm like, holy cow, what are we going to do? Rick and Ball, thank goodness, he says, well, we can hand file them. Like, oh my God, we got a hand file band, so we've been hand filing bands. Rick and Ball mostly, but I only hand filed like 3 bands. And I'm gonna tell you, it sucks. But it's like a chainsaw. There's 230 teeth in this band. You go all the way around this band, it's hand filing like you do on a chainsaw. Just like a chainsaw, you're eventually going to get off. And once it gets off, there goes your footage. You got to start slowing down because you can't saw right because the band ain't right. And start marking lumber and stuff like that. So, I'm in a panic. I can't get this daggone... This is thousands of dollars worth of situation that we got ourselves into. And I don't know what to do. I'm not an experienced filer, so I'm just grabbing at straws here. Well, finally, last Saturday, I think, or the Saturday before last, I had a panic. You can ask Perry, I had a conniption fit. I had a panic attack. I went and got the daggone fork truck, and we got this old grinder that the guy before me, whoever before me, has pulled it out and set it out of our file room. It used to be like a backup they used to have before my time. And it was a Armstrong Profiler is what it's called. It's like the Armstrong's attempt at a wet grinder. A wet grinder is a grinder that puts water on it and stuff as you grind. For some reason we pulled it out. It was a cam grinder, and I'm mechanical. I'm not a filer. I'm not a good saw filer. If I file, I get by, but I'm not a good saw filer. I'm pretty good at mechanical stuff. I'm gonna toot my own horn. I think I'm pretty mechanical in my mind. You all be the judge of that. But anyways, I'm like, this thing has a cam underneath it that operates it. And it operates the head up and down and it gets it in motion. And it is a fail-proof system. It is the bestest, perfectest system ever made. I don't care who you are. I'd argue it till the end of time. And I'm like, daggone it, why is that not in the file room? Screw this. But it's been sitting, there's more to it. It's been sitting outside for 5 years. It was already old and dilapidated when I guess they got took out. And then it sat outside for 5 years, no tarp on it, raining right down in it. So this thing's been sitting in the rain for 5 years. Electronics, everything opened it. That's our fault, that's our problem. Shame on me. But anyways, I have a panic attack a couple Saturdays ago, I think. And I pull this thing in a shot. Now, our lives have been nuts. I've been going to, which I'll get some video on it. I went to a school down in Memphis to get trained at NHLA on a few things, and quality control, QC, and things like that. And then this past weekend, I had to go to, we went to the Midwest Saw Filers Association, had their annual meeting, and that was awesome. Two awesome situations, but it's right in the middle of all this crap going on when we're hand filing bands. For 2 weeks, we hand filed the bands around there. And I'm sitting there going, I'm panicking because I know, like, towards the end of it, we're starting to slow the saw down. We're starting to slow the feed rate down going to the saw because the bands are crap. They're uneven and they're crap. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I end up panic. I grabbed this old Armstrong. I've never ran in my life. I don't know anything about it. I just know that it can grind bands if it would run. And I pull it in, pull out a schematic, and start going through it. And I wire it into the shop, and it was 240. And I wired up in the shop. We pull the button. Well, first we had something wrong, then we fixed that. Then we pulled the button, and lights come on. I was like, yes, we're started. Well, then we start to feed this or feed that, and things won't move. It's all groggy, and then the motor burns. We see smoke, and the motor burns out. And me and Granny drives down on Sunday to Brooks Electric in Cave City, Kentucky, down there. And they had a daggone motor, brought it up, put it on this grinder, got this baby running. Got the cam is spinning, the heartbeat of this thing, the cams is spinning, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's coming to life. So that meant to me that the rest of this stuff is dinky stuff. I could come up with things off my shirt, off the cuff, and get her going, and just invent some things, make some parts, and get this thing going. And we got her. I think it took probably a day and a half to get this thing up and going. For me running frantic for day and a half of the fixing in the shop, and then put it in the file room and get her to file another half day to get it set up. And by golly, Big Mama and Big Daddy, thank you for the help, Granny and Big Daddy. They got it in, we got it hooked up, and we got this sucker up and running, and I am so proud. It ain't much to look at, but I've been told that before. So, but I'm telling you, she's got it where it counts. Now, just a little, for instance, if you're a filer, you're a saw filer watching this, a legit good legal saw filer, these bands are uneven. We've been hand filing them for 2 weeks, so they're uneven as crap. It's going to take a few filings to get them even again, and it's also going to take quite a few filings, because this Armstrong runs a different profile than we'd been running. So it's going to take a while to grind the band down over time to get the backs of the teeth, your teeth back, the nice parabolic, smooth flow that the teeth need to be right. So you're going to look at some pretty rough looking bands. Try not to judge me on that too bad, because it's just not right yet. But let's go check it out. So here she is running. Now our profile ain't right. You can see this missing this hump in the tooth back here in the back, but it's looking good. This thing had sat outside in the rain for 5 years. There was stuff locked. Now it's a little rough. I'm getting some parts for it and things, but it is operational. It is running, and it is a cam. I'm going to say this 100 times. Cam. That limit switch mess around, it's for the birds as far as I'm concerned. This old girl, we had to put a new motor on it. The rain had rained down in here and got down the bearings and just locked it up. And we pulled the armature out and everything, or the arbor out and everything. It is all. Now, I did forget to say one thing. The motor that the water went down into, water couldn't get out. And that's a C-face mount, that motor is. It mounts to the gearbox on a C-face. Well, that water ran on down through that motor, got down to that gearbox, froze, and busted the gearbox. And any of you ever seen a square tube or something that busted? You know, it always busts right in the corner where a square piece tries to swell out, and then it curls at the corner and busts open. So there's a spot in that gearbox, drained the oil out of it, busted that much. I told Rick and Ball, so what are we going to do there? I said, well, we've done this in the past. I said, I'm going to pull that daggone oil out of there and I'm going to shove a grease fitting in the oil fill hose and we'll fill that son of a buck up with grease. He looked at me like I was crazy. Of course, at this point, the Frankenstein crap I was pulling back in the shop, I mean, I got parts from all kinds of crap just thrown in this thing to get it running. And I'm looking kind of like one of them, like a mad scientist, you know, that's a little bit kooky. You probably don't know if it's ever going to work. It's going to be like, you know, what was the, who was the professor that Marty get the DeLorean? That's what it kind of reminded me of in this piece of crap, you know. So we fill this gearbox up with grease, fires right up, runs, find a little bit of grease pooped out where the gearbox was busted. It pooped a little grease out, but she's nice and good. Fill her up with grease, you'll never have to touch it.
Just screwed. Brushes was locked up. We busted one of the brushes trying to bust them free. And we had to do some wiring on the inside. We had a little bit of stuff messed up on the inside, and I got to put my covers back on them rails. Took the cord off an old drill, hooked it up. This here was off that bunch of junk I bought off the gym for these rights. So I incorporated them into this, and that's off an old, that was laying up in our warehouse. I don't know what that was, off of something over the years. And this here, so when you crank these, you're gonna change the height, you need both of them to move. See how that's moving over there? Now the way that does that's through this drive shaft. See that? All right. Well, this here was on this and when we got this jump, but it stopped right here. So I just grabbed a piece of rebar and ran the drive shaft through the rebar, welded a pipe coupling on it, cut some slits in it with a grinder, and put a split collar on it. And that son of a buck tightened her down. It worked slicker than a whistle. Just something, you know, just something to grab and get going on it. Now this was not a number 4, this was actually a profiler, but it's based off a number 4. So, and what the profiler, I don't know what this does, I'll figure that out later. I just put wire nuts on it. It's 12 volt, whatever it is, probably for a light bulb or something. But it had this coolant pump on it, because this thing was actually a wet grinder. And I don't know, I told Rick and I said, screw that. I hate that wet grind, rotten equipment down bull mess. It just rots everything around it, because that head slings that stuff everywhere. And there was old rotten metal down in it. It welded shut down there. The saw carriage up and down was welded shut. I had to take a hammer and chisel and take some stuff apart down here and bust all that loose to get it a hand crank operational. And I mean, it just works slicker than a whistle. Now, I am used to a wet grinder, so I am kind of burny on my teeth because I'm not used to taking light strokes. I'm used to bearing down. That's the only thing I see different about this is a wet grinder. This thing you can slow it down and grind once and grind one and done if you want to, or do a cleanup grind, wedge and shape, and a final grind. But this thing you can slow down to where it just barely, you know what I mean? It just barely moves. Whereas this thing with the cam motor, it only goes down so slow. So you kind of hit, the habit is you need to hit lighter grinds on it and then more of them. So like 4 grinds with this, just hitting the button, starting again. Whereas this thing, you've got to adjust your X, Y, Z, or your X, Y, and then all your mess, and get the water going again, and get all the stuff going again. You know, I just love it. It's we got 2-inch pitch. See, now the profile's different, so we'll have to finally grind these saws down to where they finally fill the backs in before these teeth get nice and strong again like they need to be. But we noticed one thing, the rake is stouter. This saw blade, when we get this profile in, what we're going to learn is this profile can be shove through the wood harder. You know, it's a better, stronger, better design. More, what do you call that? More the parabolic shape of it is just way better as far as not getting cracks and running the crap out of it and stuff. And I'm not a saw filing god by no means, so I can't have the talk like these guys can go on for hours talking about stuff these saw filing men can. But main thing I'm after, I live my life off the Pareto principle, and perfectionists can't stand that I do that. I want it sharp, I want it predictable, and I want it done. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, if it was up to me and I had $1 million, I'd go to somebody's scrapyard and I'd buy another one of them. I'd pull that son of a buck out and take a wheel loader and I'd fix that son of a buck over real good with a wheel loader, and I'd have another old crapper sitting right here with this back feed system off the right, and then forget that son of a buck ever existed. Cam. I'm telling you. Now, some of you's gonna bash me on here or whatever, but I'm gonna tell you, when you took this, now this machine's designed for variable pitch. Now, to make this economically work out for y'all, you need variable pitch saws. You need to be running like Pine, where you're going 90 miles a day, sawing 100 to 200, 300,000 feet a day, just rolling the wood out, and running different saws. So anyway, it's rolling good. I've got things loosened up, everything's going. I got the wrong size grinding wheels. I need bigger wheels. They're coming. And you look at things like your feed finger. Your feed finger can screw up. I talked to my brother about this. He used to run this old thing. And but I'm like, you know what? That's got a feed finger too. And it can screw up with the springs and not doing right. But it can also screw up with limit switches, with an air leak, it's got a thing that's a shock to keep it from pushing too hard. Where this thing's on a cam, so it's parabolic. Towards the end of the stroke and the beginning of the stroke, it automatically slows down by the way it's designed. It's and then easy, with no extra parts. It does that on its own in design. In design, it does that. And here you got this thing. It's got just on the feed finger cell. Let's look at the feed finger. Let's look at the feed finger. So here's the feed finger. You got two air hoses. This limit switch that goes out quite often. This shock absorber, it has to be adjusted and tweaked so it's getting flat now. You got to shim, all this stuff. You got all these little tinsy parts that shim. That's some of that. This roller, got to grease that because that roller gets messed up. Now you got all these moving parts. Plus, you're going to get lash and things, but you can get lash in the cam too. But when you're going, it's going to create more lash easier than an easier cam that's parabolically towards the end of the stroke slows down. Speeds up, slows down. Ramps up, slows down. Speeds up, slows down. It's just all in natural form. Where this thing, you got umpteen million parts just to put the band forward. And that's not to mention, that's the simpler part. Then you get the XY motors and all that stuff, and then all this stuff and all that stuff. When I'm looking into something, I want something that's going to age like wine, not like milk. See what I mean? Look at that. Sat out in the weeds for 5 years, raining right down the motors, locked up everywhere. Beautiful. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I understand a few people on here might come on in the comments and talk about, I'm kind of being campaigny and whiny. And I get that. And I'm not trying to run down the company that built the other machine. There is situations you have to have that other machine. You have to. But here's the point. This keeps coming up. I read the book Titans about John D. Rockefeller. Rockefeller made Standard Oil.
He standardized a process that could be standardized. So many people, so many human beings out there, including me, I'm one, this is for me too, but we tend to overcomplicate things that don't need to be overcomplicated sometimes. Now, a CNC machine is designed for variable pitch. When you're running a band that you have to have variable pitch, you have to have a CNC. There's no other way to do it. But you've got to tell yourself that is a necessary evil. It is not a benefit. If you're running standard pitch saws, you don't need it. Some people will say, well, I like the wet grind, I like this, I like that, and I get it. And good for you. But the most important resource in your whole lives, anybody watching this, anybody doing anything out there, the most important resource is time. Some people's going, well, if I wet grind, I can grind faster. My time is more, and I get that. But if you have to pour so much resource and energy into keeping the machine itself going, you can't focus on your job as a saw filer. And that complaint I've had since day one when I went into this room and start thumping around and trying to do things in this room, and I'm not good at it. I'm not even saying I'm good at it. But I'm not nothing. I know that. I don't care what anybody, if they commented and tell me that or something, I don't care. I know that I'm not nothing. I'm not everything, I know that, but I'm not nothing either. So I have the confidence behind this decision to do this. And Rickenball's starting to back me up on it. He's starting to say yes, the problem with a saw that has 230 teeth in swedging, shaping, leveling, benching, welding cracks, if you get cracks, because we're getting cracks because we've had chaos. When you get the chaos out of the system, the cracks go away, things are more predictable, and you're smooth sailing. But when you make and we might find with this old cam machine, we got a problem of inaccuracy in our band sharpening. But the problem we have now is noise. And you might have to look it up on the internet or whatever, those of you who want to dive deep in that rabbit hole. But noise is horrible. Inaccuracy is something that can be dealt with. And we're picking the lesser of the evils, going with possibly inaccuracy. But Rickenball fixed the band the other day. He finally got one and he just ground the crap out of swedge and shape twice. And he said, I'm telling you, he said, they're coming around. He said, the last band I turned out, every daggone swedge pocket was even Steven. It was perfect. He said, it's better than we've been pumping out with the other one. So he said, I think once we get this hand filing crap out of our system, he thinks that we're going to be all right. And my point and my motive in this whole situation is after one thing, two things: predictability and to be done. I want it to be predictable process, and I want it to be done. I don't care about all the other crap. There's many fish to fry around this joint. I'm not after going around talking about we got the sharpest, best band around. I don't care about that. We got predictable bands. We can keep on there. We keep rolling. We keep hammering, and we keep solving other problems that with flow. And the way we sawmill, I won't get into all that. The way we're sawmilling, having the sharpest band that poops the most wood out ain't necessarily our biggest problem. Our biggest problem is other processes. The sawing is the process. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you to think that we're taking our focus away from the main situation there. But having a predictable situation there, so we can deal with other bottlenecks in our system, to keep the saw running smooth, to keep our decisions going back and forth from hearts to grade efficiently. That's our focus right now. And downtime, to knock the rest of it. We're getting lower and lower on our downtime all the time, but we want to knock the rest of that downtime out and get that son of a buck, bam, lickety split. But we can't be sitting there with a side project like sharpening your bands be the quicksand pit of our focus and time. And that's where we're at. And I'm so frustrated. I'm sorry if I sound like a campaigner or a whiner to you guys. I apologize if I come across like that. But I'm telling you, we got to get our priorities right here, and we got to get the ship steered back in the right direction. We got bigger fish to fry than this. Thanks, everybody. I hope you like this. Leave me comments, and thank you for all the support you all give me and this company and my family. Thank you, guys. Have a good one later on. Love you.